Welcome back to All About America's Team, brought to you by Delahanty Media. And this is the draft episode. We're going to be getting into a lot of draft prospects, go through some team needs, and try and figure out the best selections for the Dallas Cowboys in this upcoming NFL draft. But before that, I'm Ray Nickens, joined with, as always,
Owen DeChico.
and we're very excited to get into this episode. So I guess before we get into the draft, Owen, is there any breaking news from the Cowboys that we should maybe get into just before we get into
Uh,
the draft?
no, the only big piece of news is that they signed a backup running back, I guess, from the Bears, I believe he played. So I assume that he'll be nothing more than a camp body because Dallas has a lot of running backs on their team. So it'll be interesting to see where he plays for who knows what his position's going to be. He's played, I think, 33 games in the last 3 years. So it'll be, I was confused by the pick, but Dallas always makes these really weird signings towards the draft, and I don't think they're gonna really make any key free agency moves until after the draft. But
Yeah, neither do I.
I think that's about it for moves. It's been a relatively quiet offseason for Dallas besides the Amari Cooper and Randy Gregory debacles earlier in the offseason. But we have 2 weeks until the uh, draft, and I'm very excited to see how that all pans out.
Yeah, so that seems like the perfect transition. So let's get right into the NFL draft. So, um, with the losses of Randy Gregory and also Lyle Collins, they're kind of in a disadvantage on the defensive line as well as the offensive line with Tyron Smith and Zach Martin not getting any younger. So I think the most important position that the Cowboys must address in this draft is on the offensive line. But but what I think is what would help them the most on defense is if they went after a defensive back, because I've been campaigning this since the end of the season, where I think Trayvon Diggs would be a much better number two corner than he is a number one corner. So I think if they could find a number one corner in this draft, then I think that would help him immensely, and I think that they can. After doing a little bit of research, I came across the Florida cornerback. Um, yeah, I came across the Florida quarterback, Mr. Kerry Elam. That's definitely not how you say his
Yes.
name. Out of
Kair
Florida,
Elam.
Kyrie
Kair
Elam.
Elam.
And one of the things that stuck out to me is that he does not give up a lot of big plays, and he does a really good job of limiting the receiver that he is playing to getting anything going. He's matched up with a lot of really talented receivers in Alabama, being a Florida cornerback, and they have him listed on, according to Bleacher Report, as a number two cornerback his rookie year who can transition into a number one. So I think that would be a great guy to focus in on if you're the Dallas Cowboys front office, especially since you would be able to get him at the 24th overall pick, with him being the 29th best player in this draft. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Of course, I would love for them to get the cornerback out of Cincinnati, Ahmad Gardner or Derek Stingley Jr., but both of those guys are going to be way long gone by the time the Cowboys are picking. So I think the Florida cornerback is a very good place to start if you are looking to build up your secondary. So what's kind of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that would be. I think there's a lot of different holes that this team could go for. I was thinking that Derek Stingley would fall to 24 just based off of all the things that were going around with him regarding his injuries and him giving like not enough effort. But then he effortlessly ran a 4.37 for his 40, which means that he's definitely not going to make it towards, he's not going to make the 24. And even if he does make it far, the Ravens will probably, I could see them trying to get him after their decimated secondary last offseason, or their last season. But yeah, there's a lot of different positions that they could go. They can go offensive line, edge. They could make if Jordan Davis falls, they could maybe get him. I've heard the guy from Minnesota, Boy Mafe. I've heard a lot of things of Dallas be interested in him. Um, Chad Muma, Chad Mwama. Sorry for all the from Wyoming. I've heard that he could be pretty good. Uh, Troy Anderson had a really good pro day at Montana State. Besides that, it's with everything surrounding Kyle Hamilton. He may fall. I don't know to 24, but there's a good chance that he may fall later in the draft. So there's a lot of different interesting things, and I definitely think there are a good 24 draftable players in the draft, and I think that Dallas would be good with getting any player out of the positions that I just named, and also with a lot of teams on draft day most likely trading up for a quarterback, which is going to push all the premier talent down, and I think that could definitely bode well for Dallas. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were to trade back with the team like the Jets and pick up some seconds, pick up their 2 second round picks and maybe pick up some more picks later in the draft. But I wouldn't be surprised with anything. Only thing I'm not expecting them to do is trade up. I would not expect that to happen.
Yeah, I do not see the Cowboys trading up either. Another position that I think that they could take in the first round is definitely an offensive lineman, especially a guard position. Um, I could see them taking Kenyon Green or Zion Johnson, either one of those two. I have Kenyon Green, my number one guard in the draft, just because of the talent that he has gone up against, being at Texas A&M, and also the fact that he's played every position other than center in college. So him coming into the NFL, the Cowboys, they can put him in a guard, replacing Lyle Collins, or and then even transition him into a left tackle role when Tyron Smith eventually hangs it up. And he has good size, can move fairly well, being able to play multiple positions. So I can see them going after him, or even another. What would not shock me at all is if the Cowboys went after the Wisconsin linebacker, who had the highest run defense grade other than Micah Parsons did. Um, so I could see Jerry Jones going after another Micah Parsons type player in that regard to try and replace Leighton Vander Esch. However, linebacker is not necessarily a specific need position for the Cowboys. However, the Cowboys have done in the past gone after a receiver when they didn't have to, or just a skill position. So I would not be surprised if they went after another linebacker, or even a receiver. There's a lot of talented receivers in this draft. I don't think they're going to go get one in the first round, but definitely there's a lot of talent in the second round for the Cowboys to go after, especially with like the George Pickens of the world who torched Baylor in the Sugar Bowl not too long ago. He will be sitting around the 30-ish spot as a receiver. Maybe I can get Michi out of Bama. He's going to probably be there as well. Olave, maybe. Who knows? But there's a lot of talent that the Cowboys could go after. I do not want to see the Cowboys select the Clemson cornerback, just because that gets beat. After watching some tape, he gets beat a lot. And that was the biggest pet peeve according to Pro Football Focus, which is not my favorite website, but that's why I went and looked at the tape. But that was their main thing with him, was that he gets beat a lot in coverage. So I went back and checked, and sure enough, he was getting beat a lot in coverage. So I do not want to see two Trayvon Diggses on either side of the football, because that would just be a nightmare for my mental health.
Yeah, speaking about Trayvon, it was really funny. A few weeks ago, I believe, when everything was coming out about Jalen Ramsey, Dallas telling them that they were going to draft him, he was talking about his top 5 corners, and he mentioned Trayvon Diggs being his top 5 in the NFL. And one of the guys of the host of the show, I don't really know what the name of the show was, and he was like, well, how can he be top 5 if he gets so many yards? And he was just saying how there are two different types of coverages that you can do when you're a corner. You can either try to like cut off a wide receiver and make big plays, or just stay by his hip and just go with him and don't fall for any of the quick moves, anything. And most of the time, that is what Diggs does fall for. And like I've said before, he's only been a corner for the past like 3 or 4 years. So hopefully, as he gets deeper into his cornerback career, he'll be able to not fall for that stuff as easily. But it was just interesting to hear from Jalen Ramsey, who is definitely a top probably the best corner in football right now, say that he views as a top five. And it was good to hear that he's not as that the NFL, the players don't view him as poorly as the media does. But yeah, I 100% agree. There are definitely a lot of players that would be interesting for them to go after. It's just so many different things that could change the draft depending on if the Lions take quarterback or not, or if they go after an edge rusher, or if the Panthers take a quarterback, because pick 6, 8, and 9 could all be quarterbacks with the Panthers, Falcons, and Seahawks. And it will sure be interesting to see what happens regarding the draft. And every single year, there's always a player who no one really expects to get picked as high. I think one of them was definitely Daniel Jones. I don't think anyone thought that he was going to be picked at number 6, and here we are 4 years later. So yeah, there are definitely just a lot of things, and I is just so many different players. I think one of my favorite, or one of the players that I'm kind of gunning for them to get, is Linderbaum, the center from Iowa. I know that a lot of people say that he has limitations just physically, but I think that he'd be able to definitely, if you plug him in game 1 next season, he'll definitely be able to do a better job than the center for this previous season. And I think that I don't know if they're necessarily going to go at a guard, because they still have McGovern, and after his semi interesting performances last season, who knows if they have faith in him, or if he is going to get bigger over the offseason. So
Yeah,
that's definitely going to be
what
interesting.
is there a chance that they'd be able to get the center out of Iowa? He is ranked pretty high, player wise in the draft. So, like, what are the
It's
chances that he were to fall 24 spots?
it honestly all depends on how many quarterbacks are taken, and how many. I think Tyler. I think that I don't think he's going to fall to 24. I think that the Eagles are going to pick him, or there are a bunch of teams that could pick him, and I really don't know. I don't think it's likely that he'll be able to drop. And if that is the case, that he does not drop, or that he does not make it there, then I would go Nakobe Dean all the way if he's available. I think that having another, especially with Jabril Cox coming back and not really, and coming off an ACL injury, and you having Leighton Vander Esch on a 1-year deal, who knows if they're going to want to resign him to more than a 1-year deal after this. Having another linebacker and allowing Michael Parsons to do whatever he wants, rush off the edge, do whatever he wants, I think that'll definitely be great. But if I were to give like the biggest needs, I would say wide receivers up there, because Gallup may not play for the first quarter of the season, and I don't really know if anyone's comfortable with with Semi Foco, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, playing a lot of snaps after not even catching anything, and not even playing at all last season. Hopefully he'll be able to go into a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 role. But I don't really think that him going into a wide receiver 3 or 2 would be great right off the bat. And then besides that, offensive line, I think they're going to go tight end later in the draft, or like round 2, maybe after that. I heard Jelani Woods is someone that a lot of people are talking about out of Virginia. And then offensive line edge, they could definitely go edge even after they signed Dante Fowler, who I believe is serving a 1-game suspension. That's what always happens when players go to Dallas. All their dirt gets brought up. Or you can get there's just even who knows if Dallas wants to trade up for the draft, they could go after Jalen Petrie, who went to Baylor and is definitely one of the top safeties in this draft, and I think would be really good, especially with Jaron Curse playing more of a in the box type role for safeties.
Well, yeah, a couple of things. I don't really. Definitely wide receiver is absolutely a need, but I don't know if it's a round one need, especially with all
It's
the
definitely
talent.
not a round one need,
Yeah,
but there's
there's
a lot of depth, and they could
there's a
definitely go
lot
after
of
wide
wide
receiver 2 or
receiver.
3.
Yes, they absolutely could get very talented wide receiver in this draft. I think Jalen Petrie is honestly will probably be available for the Cowboys to take at 24 if they wanted. I was very surprised when they had him listed as a cornerback on where I was grabbing all these names, doing my specific research because I viewed him more as like an undersized box safety or a box DB that played a lot. That was a huge emphasis in the run and stopping the run, blitzing off the edge. But he could also play in the secondary in the slot if needed. So I don't know if the Cowboys would necessarily go after a guy like Jalen Petrie, especially since they've held on to Jordan Lewis, who
Yeah,
has
I
been
would say it
playing.
more for like the second round if he was able to make it that far.
Yeah,
Definitely
I
not in
think.
the first round.
Yeah, definitely. At that point, once you get to the second round, it all comes down to whether or not you really value a wide receiver in the second round over another defensive player. Because I think
Yep.
where the Cowboys are going to um, win games is on their defense is on defense, and I don't know how much Petrie will help them his first year coming out of Baylor, but I could see him being a development project where he turns into a pretty solid defensive back for the Cowboys. However, I don't think that he's going to last that long, especially with so many teams looking for that hybrid DB linebacker safety kind of guy. I could definitely see the Cowboys doing something along the lines of where they go after offensive lineman first, and then get someone like Mathis out of Bama in the second round potentially. Um, he flashed a lot when I watched Alabama at linebacker. And the guy that they had ahead of him, the OU linebacker, I put no stock in any OU defensive player whatsoever. I don't care who they are, how good they are, because OU's defense is usually a bust. Um, so I really don't put much faith in the OU regime. But maybe in the near future with the defensive coach out of Clemson coming to be the head coach for OU, that will change. But I guess a question I have for you is: could you see the Giants maybe going after selecting a Malik Willis type of guy? Because a lot of guys have Malik Willis as the best quarterback in the draft. However, I view him, especially coming out of Liberty, as a long term project, more like a Trey Lance, where you have him sit at least a year and then see whether or not you want to go forward with him in year two.
Mhm.
I see the Giants in that situation where they're kind of in a one more year, one more chance, two more chances, maybe even three, who knows. But
Mhm.
with Daniel Jones, so I could see the Giants going after that Malik Willis type of quarterback and having him sit as long as they could possibly get him to sit, and then moving forward with a different quarterback, especially with Daniel Jones coming towards that, coming closer and closer to the end of his rookie contract. So, what's kind of your opinion on regarding maybe the Giants going after another quarterback?
I personally think that they're gonna go after a offensive lineman. You could see them go after guys like from Mississippi State is Charles Cross or
Mm-hmm.
Ikem Aquanu, depending on if he falls that far. And then with that second pick, I think their defense is definitely something that needs to be fixed before you can draft a quarterback because the Giants, I don't think they're in any position to compete for next year. And personally, there's really no. I have Malik Willis going to the Tiger. Sorry, to the Lions in this, at the second overall pick, and after that, there's really no point in drafting a Ritter or a Corral or a Pickett with or Howell, even if they decide to have him at 5 or 7. I think they'd rather just get a offensive lineman, get a edge player, and then go into next year not perform all that well, and then be in a position to get Stroud or the Alabama quarterback. But who knows? I don't. It is a new coach. Yeah, it is a new coach going in there, so he may want to just see how Daniel Jones
New
plays.
GM too, I think.
Yeah, so knew everything.
Yeah.
So it'll
Like
be
the thing with Malik Willis is he's definitely has a ton of talent, but I definitely view him as the least ready quarterback in this draft.
he's
I
very
think
raw. Yeah,
Riddler playing 4 years at Cincinnati, Pickett playing a while, Matt Corral playing a lot. I think Pickett and Corral and Riddler are definitely way more NFL ready than a Malik Willis, and especially I guess the Lions are in that same boat where they could take Malik Willis and then have him sit behind Jared Goff, but who knows? Maybe the Lions, they could be trying to build around Jared Goff, who is taking up a lot of money on their cap. So I could also see the Lions trying to build around Jared Goff, who is a former #1 overall pick. So a quarterback is not taking a quarterback would not be the worst thing in the world for the Lions. However, you could same exact scenario that I brought up for the Giants, the Lions could also be doing with Malik Willis. But I definitely, in my opinion, I think Desmond Riddler is the most ready to play out of all of the quarterbacks playing three seasons with Cincy, and also he's my favorite of all the four.
Want to hear something funny? I was looking at a draft for team needs, and it just because I wanted to see the draft order, and it said for the Texans needs every position. That was pretty funny. But
That
yeah,
is
personally, I'm gonna go through my top 10, and then if you'd like to comment on that and see if you have anything different.
your top
So
10 for the top 10 teams
for the top
draft
10
their picks.
for the who I think they're gonna pick. So
Okay.
I have Hutchinson going #1 to Jacksonville. I have Willis going to #2. We obviously differ on that. I have Ikem Ekwamu going #3. Then I have Thibodeau going #4 to the Jets. Then I have Charles Cross going to the Giants. And then at 6, I have Matt Corral going to the Panthers. 7, I was going to do an edge player. I wasn't able to do it. But I was gonna probably go Walker from Georgia. He's been getting a lot of heat, or not, well, not a lot of heat, but he's been picking up a lot of steam for going up for being a top pick. And then for the Falcons, I feel like they could do a number of things, just depending on what specifically they want to do. But for them, I was gonna have them go after Ahmad Gardner going at number 8, which definitely hurts the Jets because I think the Jets wanted to pick him up at 10. But for pick 9 to Seattle, they can go so many different positions. It's definitely difficult. I'm probably gonna have them going after an offensive tackle just to be able to protect any quarterback that they do it as of right now, which is Drew Locks. I have them going after Evan Neal at number 9, and then 10 I have Kyle Hamilton being picked.
Yeah.
And Neal and Aquanu can get, a lot of people have them going back and forth, but yeah.
I definitely see at least one quarterback going in the top 10. I think Carolina is probably the most likely, especially since they were in the running for Deshaun Watson. So they're definitely going after a quarterback. It just depends on which one that they'll take. Um, I really honestly don't see the Lions going after a quarterback, just because especially I think I think Jared Goff deserves to not. I don't think they're gonna push him aside, especially being a number one overall pick, being a Super Bowl quarterback, playing fairly decent with the Lions this year with what he had. I think there's definitely a chance to build around him. So in that case, I could see the Lions could do multiple different things. They go after that offensive lineman, go after one of those offensive guards that I mentioned, or offensive tackles. Um, the Kenyon Greens or Zion Johnsons or the Evan Neal's Charles Cross, um, or even kind of make it a very like even going after someone like Trevor Penning, who was the highest FCS grade, but also did play in the FCS and not the FBS. So you like, there's really a lot of different options, or even go defense. Like, who knows at this point with Dan Campbell? Dan Campbell could do anything, and none of us would be able to predict what he was going to do. So that's kind of my 2 cents. Um, who is the number 3 pick? Is that the Texans?
Yeah. So honestly, there's like two different trains of thought. You either have the Jaguars going after Hutchinson, or you have them picking Evan Neal, and I have them going after an edge to try to. It's honestly both are great picks, either Evan Neal or Hutchinson. Just depends on if they want to protect their quarterback or beef up their defense. And yeah, it's
Yeah, I
interesting to say
mean,
the least.
there are a lot of like, I could see, actually, let me just, while I'm talking, I could definitely see them going after Evan Neal um
Yeah.
at 3. While I pull up a little bit of, I'm just pulling up Kyle Hamilton, seeing what kind of news is there any like bad news for Hamilton?
He ran a 4.7, which is not great for a safety. And I was watching a video of Bengal YouTube, and he's definitely a great draft YouTuber. So if anyone is really interested in the draft, really wants to get into the draft, definitely watch his YouTube videos. But something that I saw was that a lot of people just don't think he's as great as people are saying here. I think athletically very gifted, but there's some things as of like running a 4.7, and yeah, I people for whatever reason hold speed and the 40-yard dash just so high, which is definitely a reason, in my opinion, talking about Denzel Mims, who was drafted 2 years ago from the Jets, got him. I don't think he was on anyone's radar before he ran a 4.3 or a 4.4. And I think that people that or players that really want to increase their stock or decrease their stock, it all depends on how they run the 40, no matter how well they play on the field. And I think that that's definitely something that it's a methodology that can kill a team if you only go for speed, like the Raiders did, and only drafting for speed, and then those players never really developing into decent wide receivers. Or you could have a team that doesn't care about speed and just wants to see how they play on the field. And I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting to see where Kyle Hamilton falls, because I think he'll definitely be in that pick 1 to like 10 to 15, but I don't really see him falling to the Dallas or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion on speed, I feel like teams just doing making picks and selections based off speed is way too like Madden, because in Madden, speed is apparently the
Yep.
most important thing, on defense especially. But like with a guy like Kyle Hamilton, who is ranked the second best prospect in the draft, for him to fall just because he's not fast doesn't necessarily seem right to me, especially with him playing safety, where he's not necessarily going to be matching up with a wide receiver off the line of scrimmage. He's going to be playing back in that safety position. So
I think he played slot for Notre Dame or Dom, which is another reason why people were. I heard that his cover ability wasn't all that great.
Yeah, I mean, so but like in the NFL, you're gonna draft the guy and try and get him in the spots to be successful. So whether that is with him making a more conventional safety or playing him at a different area, but I don't know if the Texans are gonna take him at 3. I
If they
they
do, I'm gonna
could I could see
laugh.
them taking definitely going after. I could see them taking a secondary position. I could see them grabbing the the Cincinnati corner, with him not allowing a touchdown for his 4 years as a corner, which is phenomenal. That's who I want in Dallas. The Mister that man is just remarkable. Ahmad Gardner. My
Yeah,
bad.
sauce.
I know your name. I promise. I know your promise. I know your name. I promise. Um, Yeah, Derek Stingley. My whole thing with him is I know he's talented. He was a huge part of that LSU championship winning team, but he's not played at all. He's played very little since that season. So it's very hard for me to judge his play based on 2 years removed, and especially that brings up my other thing with speed. Him running a 4.3 just automatically erases the fact that he's been gone for multiple seasons in college. So really, how good is he going to be? But then that just puts you in another Jamar Chase situation where he sat out a full year, and we had people like Mister Owen DeChico who was saying that Chase is not maybe a bust. He can't catch. He might not transition. And look what
I said
happened.
he can't catch
So
because the preseason he luckily had bricks for hands.
yes, and yeah, I mean you were throwing shade or you were giving criticism to the receiver, and that probably had a lot to do with the lack of tape. So it would come from what was he doing? Not what was he doing in the offseason? Was he not catching with an NFL football? What was his thought process? What was he doing? And then all of a sudden he comes in and plays phenomenal. So I really can't judge a player for not playing in football games until I see him play in the NFL. But I could see him going in the top 5 for sure. I could see him going in the top 5 just based on um, name and I guess combine. I think 2 corners are going to go in the top 10. I think Hamilton's going to go in the top 10 as well. Definitely at least one quarterback, one offensive lineman, and then of course Hutchinson's going to go number 1. So
Yeah.
those
So,
are
so
those are
who
my
do you have as your in your top 10?
I
Or
have
who do you have every team picking? If you need me to read off the draft order, I'd be more than happy to.
yeah. Can you just give me a list of the teams that are picking?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. All right, so you have the Jaguars.
Yeah,
So you
Jaguars
have
will be
them going.
taking Hutchinson. Um,
All
I
right,
have I have the Lions
the Lions. Okay, Evan Neal.
taking Neal. Um,
The
Texans, I have
Texans.
him taking Gardner.
Okay, Sauce. The Jets.
Jets, that's a
Kayvon
tough
Thibodeau is
one.
still available.
That's a tough one. Thibodeau's an edge rusher, right?
Yes, he is from
Yeah, I
Oregon.
have him. Yeah,
There's
Thibodeau. Yeah, I have
Thibodeau.
him. Yeah, him definitely. Jets
Okay,
will
and
take him.
then the Jets, Panthers, Jets. Oh, sorry, the Giants, Panthers, Giants.
Okay, Giants. I could see them taking Stingley at
Okay,
corner.
Panthers.
Um, Panthers will take. I'm going to go with them taking Corral based on his strength
Interesting.
of talent
Okay,
that he played.
Giants again.
Giants.
The top players available are Hamilton, Cross, Aquanu, Trent McDuffie, George Karloff.
They're gonna take Cross. They'll take Cross. They're
Cross.
gonna go
Okay,
offensive line. Yeah.
and you have the Falcons.
Um. That's, gosh, who did the Falcons just traded for or picked up Mariota?
Yes,
So
they did.
I
So
don't think
it's a
I don't
bridge
think the
quarterback.
Falcon. Yeah, I don't think the Falcons are going to take a quarterback in that scenario unless it's a Malik Willis type of guy, like we talked about,
Mhm.
where have them sit and develop. But
Yeah.
I think the Falcons are probably going to go defense.
Okay.
Um, Devin, I could see them taking Dean or Lloyd. I'm just gonna go with my gut and say that they're gonna take Dean out of Georgia.
That would be very high for Dean, but yeah, the reason why they originally made the Super Bowl a few years ago was because of how great their linebacker, how great
Mm-hmm.
that defense was. But yeah, they could go. It could either go Dean or they could go a cornerback to pair up two really good cornerbacks. So yeah, there's Seattle now.
I think Seattle is going. Um, yeah, that's
There's
tough. There's
Hamilton, Iquanu, McDuffie,
yeah.
Trayvon Walker's there. Yeah, some of these teams, there's just so many different holes that it's really difficult to figure out where exactly they're going to go.
I'm gonna say that I mean, it's interesting because I could go the easy way out and say that they addressed their offensive line, but when have the Seattle Seahawks addressed their offensive line in the last multiple seasons? So
They never do.
I'm not going to do that.
They, uh, they never go
I'm
for
going to say that the
that pick.
yeah I'm going to say that Seattle goes the defensive route, and I'm going to say that they take McDuffie at that position.
So three corners taken. That's all. That'd be
Hmm.
great for Dallas. More players falling, and then for the Jets.
And then I have the Jets taking Hamilton.
Oh yes, okay. It's a pretty good top 10.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think I mean all three of the corners that I listed are all top 10 corners or top 10 prospects in the draft. And I mean the only place that I think that a corner might not go is the Giants.
The other hole they got to fix.
Yeah, but I mean in that case the definitely I could see the Giants. Who did I have the Giants taking? I had them taking Stingley, and
You had
then
them taking, and then you had them taking Cross.
yeah, so I definitely think they'll take Cross.
Yeah,
Um,
they have to go after an offensive lineman badly.
I mean, the Giants could do something completely dumb, like take a wide receiver also. So that's
Yeah,
also in the running. But I'm just
I
I'm gonna let my draft board stay. There were at least two corners taken last year in the top 10, maybe even three. So I'm just gonna let it sit and just kind of go with it at that point.
yeah. I see a lot on Twitter. A lot of teams are bad at drafting, so it'll be interesting to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Eagles will probably. The Eagles could do a lot of different things.
And yeah, especially with next year, or next draft having two picks as well, I could definitely foresee if Hurts has a bad year, them trading those two picks to go get either Bryce or Stroud.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to go skill position definitely. So I could see the Eagles taking one of those receivers, depending on who's available. I definitely do not think that the Williams of the worlds, the Olaves, uh, what's his name, Garrett something.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson. There's
Garrett
also
Wilson's not going to be there.
yeah,
So like they could go after the Arkansas guy. Don't think that
Burks.
they'll be getting Burke. So I definitely think Arkansas, the guy from Arkansas. Well, they won't be getting the other receiver. That I'm thinking of. That was very ranked
Yeah,
very high.
yeah,
Um,
Burks is definitely going to be around like the 20 to 32 range with all the other
London
top
out of
talent.
USC.
Yeah, Drake
Yeah.
London, I think will be the top wide receiver picked, just based
Yeah.
off his name
So
and everyone like hyping him up.
Yeah, I think it really, like you said, depends on where the quarterbacks go. Because the quarterbacks, they could either go all in the top 10, top 15, or only two or one or two could go in the first round, just
or
depending on.
none, and then Dallas trades back because it's really interesting to see what happens. As Jerry Jones said that in his infinite wisdom, basically telling everyone in dirty laundry, saying that Dallas wants to take an offensive lineman, and in a world, Linderbaum, um, Green, the guy from A&M, like all of the top guards and centers are gone, and then Dallas has to make a decision if they want to draft a linebacker or go after other needs. And I think that Dallas, if they go in with best player available, like they did for CD and for Diggs, then I think this draft will be pretty good because they have a lot of fifth round picks. They have three of them, I believe. So if Dallas wants to package a second and a fifth to move up for a good wide receiver, or if Dean or someone drops, then I could foresee that happening.
Yeah, I definitely think that the Cowboys have to address the offensive line in this draft. I mean, I've said it 3 or 4 times already, but the Tyron Smith is definitely on his way out in the next couple of years. He's not going to last like the guy from Cleveland did lasted for like 16 seasons. He's already broken down. His back's not holding up. Zach Martin, the same exact thing. So I think it's very important, especially for the health of the quarterback, for the Cowboys to get an offensive line, a better to build back up that offensive line, because it's going to help the running game and it's going to help the passing game. If the Cowboys aren't able to get a wide receiver that can fill in the to fill in while Gallup is missing time, to kind of fill in that Amari Cooper role, then they're going to have to rely a lot on the running game, and having that built and revamped offensive line is going to help tremendously, especially even if they don't go after a guy to replace or Tyron Smith. That the guy out of A&M, he's more than capable of playing a different position. I don't think that the Cowboys are necessarily going to go after the center, especially since this is Biadish's, I think his first year starting at center was last year. That
Yeah,
was his first.
I think this is his third overall year, but
Yeah, I mean, it was his first. It was. I could definitely. I'm not gonna throw him under the bus after one season, especially when he wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. That was definitely Terrence Steele before last year, showing a little bit of improvement. So I could see the Cowboys addressing the guard position a lot more likely than the center position, especially with McGovern being uncertainty there. Um, so I definitely
yeah,
think the Cowboys would would go guard in that scenario, or like I said, linebacker. The guy out of draft a guy like the guy out of Wisconsin who shows a lot of similarities to a Micah Parsons.
yeah, it's definitely interesting. But that's our like preview to the draft. I'm definitely over the next few days or whatever gonna go look at every single team, and I'm gonna definitely make a mock draft, and then hopefully for the next episode or two episodes down from now before the draft, Ray and I can have a big old draft video and trying to figuring out who we think is going to go where. And even though we gave our, as of right now, top 10, that's like our early top 10, and then we'll be able to give like a more precise top 10 for just end going all the way up to pick 32, maybe if we see any trades happening. But yeah, the Cowboys every single year make the most of make the team better the most in the draft. And
Mm-hmm.
Dallas, besides the second round pick, besides Diggs, and hopefully besides Calvin Joseph, haven't really made a lot of good second round pick selections. So
Yeah, I guess
hopefully,
that's the other thing I kind of overlooked is the fact that Kelvin Joseph is still on the team and hasn't played very many snaps. So,
yeah,
I mean, I guess in that scenario, whether or not, like, I'm sure that if the Cowboys don't believe in Kelvin Joseph, then they will go after that corner in that scenario. But he still is on the team and still has a lot of opportunities to play, whereas he wasn't playing last year. So that's something that I did overlook. So I guess in that scenario, if they're going to go as secondary, they'd probably address it in the safety position or in the slot, like you said. with
Yeah.
like a Petrie or a Hamilton if he were to fall 24 spots, which I do not
Yeah.
think
No, I don't.
will end up
No.
happening. So I guess in that scenario, then definitely the more likely options for the Cowboys in that regard is defensive line with either Georgia defensive tackle. Both are monsters. Both will help tremendously on the defensive
Oh,
line.
definitely. Davis and
Or
Wyatt, definitely.
yeah, or go after a linebacker, one of the linebackers to try and boost up that linebacking core, and then if not that, then definitely address the offensive line. So definitely the three most likely selections in that regard for the Cowboys are offensive line, defensive line, and linebacker.
100%. Yeah.
But
Right.
Jerry will
Anything you
probably
want to
take
say?
wide receiver.
Anything you want to say before you wrap up?
I'm very sad at this point that we were not able to acquire Mr. Bobby Wagner from Seattle, especially since if we were to have gotten Bobby Wagner, it would have allowed Micah Parsons to be that edge threat, while Bobby Wagner would have been more of the coverage linebacker, um, and just kind of running the defense, being that leader, that Mike linebacker, and allowing Micah Parsons to do whatever the heck that he wanted to do. But we are here. Bobby Wagner is with the Rams, and we are sad as Cowboys fans.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of different things about. There was a Seattle reporter that's talking about how he kind of stepped back athletically and he was a lot slower, and he did get a pretty big deal. And I think that I can only imagine that a reason why he wanted to go back to that division with the Rams is to just show Seattle that they gave up on him for all the wrong reasons. But yeah, it definitely would have been nice, but Stephen Jones does not like to open up the paybook and the checkbook, and that would have been a very pricey acquisition. Dallas has about $15 million in cap space, so hopefully they'll be able to make a lot of like 1 year signings and stuff like that.
yeah, I mean at this point I don't see the Cowboys making very many off-season uh, pickups with the draft on the way because I think they'd much rather use that 15 million of space on a draft on
Yeah,
their draft selections. So at this point, I really don't see them making very much changes to their roster until the draft. But
definitely.
I guess the highlight of the offseason has been re-signing the punter. Him being our best player on the team was very nice to see him back and with the star on his helmet. And
Oh yeah, anger. Yeah, it'd be
yeah, and
great.
I'm pretty. I always say that I don't get super excited for the draft, but it's always interesting to see what team takes who, and then kind of build your predictions on which player is gonna have the biggest impact for their team, moving on into the NFL season. I know um, back when I first met Owen freshman year, I was making the jokes that Joe Burrow would be a huge acquisition for the Cowboys, and they should go after him if they kept tanking and losing a bunch of games. And sure enough, the Joe Burrow found himself in the Super Bowl. I know it's very highly on Jamar Chase. I hit Micah Parsons right on the head in the draft, but it's going to be interesting because I had those three splashes, but then I could also flop the guy, um, with the guy out of Wisconsin who I've been talking about very heavily on this show, and also I could flop with thinking that the Lions could not take a quarterback. So it's really there's a
Teams
ton
get
up in the air.
desperate.
Yeah, there's
Teams
really
get
a ton up in
desperate.
the air. The Lions could wake up the morning of the draft and be like, "Oh my goodness, we need a quarterback." But
Exactly.
yeah, or the Cowboys could wake up on draft and decide that they need a running back and take Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State, which would be a disaster. And I would not know what I would do if they took a running back in the first round. But yeah, that's really all I have to say. Just
Yeah.
some points of order. You can find us on at America's Team, capital P, capital C on Twitter, and then also Instagram at All About America's Team. The Twitter. We're both have access to the Twitter. So we'll be able to both post some things regarding players, prospects, etc., with the draft coming up. And then also on draft day, stay tuned for our live thoughts on each selection. We'll each give our 2 cents
Oh yeah, that'll be
on the
great.
selection. So just be looking out for that. And if there's any breaking news, if a plane crashes into AT&T Stadium, if Ezekiel Elliott gets traded or cut, we'll be here to talk about it. So just rest assured, we will be here to talk about the breaking news.
Yeah, it would be a shame if a paper airplane broke one of the windows. It'd be a real shame if you just broke the whole stadium.
that that would be quite an interesting scenario.
But yeah, I think that's it, and we'll definitely be back in a week or so to talk about mock drafts, and there will definitely be more and more news going on with picks and stuff like that. But thank you all for listening, and my name is Owen.
This is Ray Nickens.
And thank you all for listening. Have a great rest of your night.
All right,
Bye,
go
folks.
Cowboys.
Go Cowboys.